السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى بعد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ثم أما بعد. Whenever we purchase something, we acquire something, we want to know how far the limits are in that thing we've acquired. We purchase a car, we want to know how fast it goes. What's its limit? How many miles can it do, or kilometers can it do on a certain tank of petrol or gas? How fast it can go? How often do I have to change the tires? When you want to build a house, the materials that you're using, how long they're going to last? When do I have to change them? When do I have to update them? The lights, how many hours do they stay on for before we have to change them? You know, we're always interested, even though we don't realize, but we're always interested about the limits of something. Even when we purchase food, how long is it going to last? When's the use by date? We're always interested to know the limits of something. How far something can be pushed. That's nature. That's normal within a human being. He wants to know how far he can go. Why are we so fascinated as human beings, for example, to break records? The fastest runner, the fastest climber, the fastest swimmer, always pushing to break a record. And that's interesting to a human being. Why? Because the human being, he likes to know where the limits are. That's part of his nature. Where's my limit? When we go to a cliff, no one stands, 100 meters away from a cliff. Most of us will actually keep walking closer and closer and closer until we get to the edge, and then we look down, we say, okay, this is the limit. We can't go further than that. Even when we're in the ocean, we're swimming, the water's up to here, we keep going in until the water is almost above our head. We say, okay, that's our limit. We can't go any further. We like pushing ourselves to the limit. That's in our nature. You can't help that. That's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us within us. It's also a part of being curious. We want to know how far we can go. However, when it comes to yourself and your body, the reality is we can push ourselves off the cliff, to say. Either we harm ourselves, we harm our deen, we harm our religion, or we harm people around us because we push too far. Because a lot of times we don't realize that you pushing your limits, you're also affected by what's around you that may even push you further. It is more likely, this is truth, to give you an example. It is more likely for you as a human to put yourself in a rage of anger and to harm your family and possibly even kill them than for someone from the outside to do that. The biggest enemy in your household is yourself. You're more of possibility that you will kill yourself against someone else killing you. What does that tell you about who you are? That you as a human being does not know his limit. Someone commits murder, everyone looks at this guy as a murderer. Well, the reality is, every person is capable of murder if he's put in the right circumstances and the right situation. That's the truth. Are these persons, an abuser? He's hurt people, he's oppressed people. The situation is, or the reality is that illa man rahim Allah, except those fractions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects. Everyone in a situation, in certain circumstances, can also become an oppressor. Someone walks around and says, alhamdulillah, I've never oppressed anyone, because you've never been in a position where you can oppress anyone. A slave cannot walk around and say, well, if I was a master, I wouldn't oppress my slaves. Why? Because you've never been in that circumstance. You've never been in that position. You don't know what your limit is. And that is the dangerous thing. As a human, we don't know what we're capable of. How is it that someone that's a normal human being, nothing wrong with him, perfect life, perfect family, and we sometimes say, oh, he's a non-Muslim. It's happening among Muslims. So, he doesn't discriminate. In a rage and fit of anger, can kill his wife, his children, and then turn it on himself and kill himself. And then everyone's scratching his head thinking to themselves, what happened? What's going on here? We're hearing it more and more often. Don't think just because someone is a believer is automatically protected. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still, as a believer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you where your limits are. Don't push it. Don't push your limits. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected the human being from what? What are human beings protected from? A human being. Look at all the things that are haram. You've got on top of the list what? Shirk, right? Black magic, then everything else under that. What is it? What is it for? The majority of sins, the 95% of major sins, what are they? Protect one human being from another human being. That's all it is. Zina, riba, killing, backbiting, slandering, lying, deception, oppression. Even black magic too. To protect one human being, to protect you from someone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put all these rules, gambling, alcohol. Why? To protect you from another person, or to protect you from your own self. Because you as a human being, if you haven't realized already, that you are among the most treacherous of creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You kill because of jealousy. You kill because of envy. What was the first sin that was committed on earth? The children of Adam, jealousy. One killed the other. You slander, you backbite. You oppress. You take people's rights. Who does that? Other animals? Or human beings between human beings? So a person has to understand that you as a human being, you're very weak and you're very vulnerable. And you as a human, the biggest enemy to your life is yourself. No one destroys his life more than his own self. No one. No one destroys his household more than his own self. If you see people, brothers out there, their households become destroyed. Who destroyed your household? Was it someone from the outside? If not, 99% it would be that someone from inside that house, be it the father or the mother, they destroyed their own household. A brother has a business, very successful. What happened? He destroyed that business himself. How? Started investing in wrong places. Started dealing with interest. Started stealing money here, stealing money there. Oppressing this person, oppressing that person. Taking this loan, taking that loan, not paying back this, not paying back. All of a sudden everything crumbles. He says, Ya Allah, why me? You caused with your own hands that destruction. Why? Because you didn't stick to the fundamentals. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put limits, He put muharramat. Why? To protect you. Yes, you can be oppressed from others, but what are we hearing these days? When we really look and try to analyze the problem, brother, you destroyed yourself. You destroyed your own household. You destroyed your own business. You destroyed your own family. From what? From your actions. From your doing, from your wrongdoings. Persons, what happened? Oh, well, this happened, I lost this and I lost that. Analyze the problem. When it comes down to a core issue, you realize that no one caused the issue but that person. There was no problems except for him destroying his life. And that's what we see on a day-to-day basis. Like we said, the possibilities of someone. Now we put cameras all over the house, security all over the house, to protect our wives and our children from being beaten or being harmed. But the majority of families that are being harmed or killed or hurt or abused or oppressed is coming from where? Who's the monster of their household? The one that's trying to secure their household. The one that's putting security cameras everywhere. The one that's, guarding the house and putting gates and putting locks on the windows. He is the one that's destroying his household. He is the one that's oppressing his household. Him. Not the stranger from outside. That's the reality of the situation. When you hear statistics, like for example, and a person say, alhamdulillah, it doesn't happen, it happens. Within the Muslim community, by Allah, it happens. And anyone that thinks, no, it doesn't happen, just speak to those that are involved with this type of stuff. In terms of suicide. In terms of someone deciding to end his life, to kill himself. Most people will never obviously kill another human being, but there's more possibility for him to kill himself. Whether he will choke himself, hang himself, or do something to end his life. And a person would say, but he's a Muslim. Yeah, but why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran not to kill yourself? Why did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam command the believer not to kill himself? If it doesn't happen within the Muslim, why is the command in the Quran and on the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because the human, as the human being is made, is capable of taking his own life. He is capable of that. And so the most leading cause of death between the age of 25 and 45 is what? In that age bracket, is suicide. It's suicide. So then we say to a person, do you really know your limits? Person say, I'll never do that. Don't never say that statement. I'll never do that. I'll never fall into that. I'll never do something like that. I'll never harm my children. I'll never harm my family. I'll never harm this. I'll never do that. Never have that confidence. I'll tell you why. Because if a person overlooks his sins, his mistakes, his evil, his corruption, if he overlooks all these things, he wouldn't realize the blackness that's growing on his heart, and he won't realize the deception of how he's fooling himself, to the point that shaitan will overcome him. That shaitan comes to a person, فَأَنْسَاهُمْ ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ, until he makes that person forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His iman goes, his deen goes, his life goes, everything is just finished. And now shaitan has him at a very vulnerable time. And by Allah, a lot of us have been in a vulnerable time in our life. We have. When things just pile up, we're being smashed from left, right and center. It's just gotten too much. We've all been in that weak point. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, if that happens, what do? We go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We go to the religion, we go to the deen. A lot of us, unfortunately, we think we find our happiness in other places, and that will even feed your destruction even more. So why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He commands things, it's always وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا, don't come near it. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, don't come near zina. أَقَوْ فَاشْتَنِبُوا, gambling فَاشْتَنِبُوا. Stay away. Don't go close to these things. You don't know your limits. You don't know how destructive you are as a human. Don't look at other people and be envious. Don't have jealousy towards other people, because you don't know how much destruction that will cause within a household or within a family. We're looking at other people. That guy's building a house, or that guy's got this car, and that guy's this, and that guy's business is going well. How come I'm not doing that? And this anger starts building inside that heart of that person. And issues will start happening. As a brother once he said, he goes, I realized in my later years of life, the only thing that I ever discuss is the dunya. That's it. I'm not discussing anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all about the dunya. It's all about the world. What this person has, and what this person doesn't have, and why this person has this, and why this person has that. Well, here's the question. Just because you have all these things, are you happy? Are you happy? I'll tell you of a story of an arbitration between a husband and wife. Well, the husband, the man of the house, he didn't have any money. She married him as a poor man. They lived in a one-bedroom unit, and they built their life up. And he became successful, and he started to have a lot of wealth. And naturally, the human being, he cannot control wealth. Any person that says, I'm able to control my wealth, the only way you control your wealth is you give it in sadaqah. That's the only way you control your wealth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you what wealth will do to you. Al-hakumut takathur. The piling up is going to destroy you. It's going to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she said that when we were poor, we were happy. We'd sit, we'd eat together. We'd read Quran together. We'd pray together. We'd make dua together. We used to go to the masjid. We used to go to lessons. We used to do so many things. Then we had children. Then my husband's business started to flourish. Then he started to change. Then it was more concern for him to have the important things of life. Then he started to neglect his family, because he had to be and hang around. So no longer hanging around with the righteous and pious, because the righteous and pious are not going to grow his head and make him feel like he's $1 million. No, but the corrupt will. And so the sheikh said, she goes, what do you want from your husband? What do you want from your husband? And she turned to be a very humble woman with what she had said. She said, Sheikh, I don't want nothing from my husband except for one thing. What is it? She says, I wish we were poor again. I wish we had no money. I wish we were destitute and we were poor, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like we did when we first got married. Because they were the happiest days of my life. Even if I live in a matchbox with my husband and family, I'll be more happier than the situation I'm in now. That everything is revolving around the dunya, and there's no happiness anymore in the household. And that's the reality of the situation. No human is able to control too much when it comes to wealth and money. If you look at the way the Sahaba and the companions were, how would they deal with their money? They knew their limits. They knew their limits. And they said one of the wisdoms of zakat, because zakat's on your savings, right? You have to pay it. It's to have the Muslim move his money, not always hold it, because that would end up overcoming a person, and it will lead to a lot of destruction. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Let's take you back. to a time either you're in your old country where you came from or where you're here when you were young. Before, you would leave your house with no money in your pocket. Nothing. You walk down the street, you'll see your friends sitting at the coffee shop, the cafeteria, the tea place, wherever it may be. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Used to come, you sit with them. No talking about the dunya. Wasn't important. You can't sit there and bragging about what you have because you have nothing. How are you so-and-so? How are you so-and-so? How's your father? How's so-and-so is sick? Yallah, let's go visit him. We got no work. Let's go visit him. They go visit the sick person. They hear the adhan of the mosque. Yallah, let's go to the mosque and pray. There'll be a job here and a job there. It's a little bit of money coming in here and there. But just enough to survive. And that day, or those times, what happens, you used to go to sleep relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will provide for me tomorrow. Living day by day. When someone came knocking on your door, and you had nothing in your household, you would find something to give that person. I say, please give me. You dig everything to give this person something. And you were happy. I guarantee by Allah, you were happy. You were happy, you were content, you were satisfied. You had friends that were loving to one another. You would die for one another. You would always help one another, support. When you were sick, they would visit you. When you needed help, they'll come help you. You'll see them on a daily basis. You go to the masjid, you read Quran, you done everything together. Then you came here to this country. And your friends followed you. And I guarantee a lot of them you don't even talk to today. A lot of them you don't even communicate today. And I'll tell you what the reason was. It had something to do with money and finance. It had something to do with the dunya that destroyed your relationship. That's the reality of it. And the ones that were here, let me remind you of the days when we were young growing up and we had nothing. Absolutely nothing. We'll hop on our bikes, right? We gathered whatever coins we could find in the house, 20, 30 cents, 50 cents, whatever. We used to go down to the local park, kick a ball around, ride our bikes with our friends, go to the corner shop, buy a couple of lollies, and enjoy the whole day. That was the best days of our life. We never used to buy water. We used to just drink from the tap. Any tap we found, we used to just drink from it. We used to enjoy our life so much. No talking about the dunya. No talking about the world. No talking about what I bought, what I didn't buy, what I have, what I didn't have. Even when we got our licenses. What type of car did we get? The cheapest cars that we could find. I want to just give you an example. That feeling when you bought that $1,000 car or that $500 car when you first got your license, how did you feel? How did you feel inside? If you didn't take that car home and even had 1,000 scratches and you washed it, you detailed it, you vacuumed it, and you stood back looking at it, so happy and satisfied. This is my car. This is my first car. Driving around, look boys, my car. And even though it was 20 years old, falling apart, oil leaks everywhere, to you, that was the greatest thing of your life. Because it was simple. Now, $100,000 car, $200,000 car, you feel nothing. Dead. Nothing exists. Because the simple things by Allah, the simple things of life, the simple tiny things of life. The times we used to wake up, what do you say? Yogurt, laban, right? Bit of bread, bit of zatar, in front of the heater. Those were the best times, wallahi, by Allah, they were the best times of your life. Best times. Now you wake up for breakfast, you go to the most fanciest restaurant for breakfast, you don't feel nothing. Dead. If anything, you complain about the food. You whinge about how long it took. You don't like eating there. Compare that to waking up in the morning, getting the heater, getting the bread, putting it on the heater, your tea, bit of yogurt, bit of, zaytun, olives, that, sitting, eating. Compare that to how you are now. That's what we say. If you really, really want to taste that beauty, go back to those days, those times where you were humbled. Now we pushed it too far. To the point now that we don't realize that the only thing that will make us happy by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the simple things of life. And the human being, and this is again, goes back to your limits. The human being, his limits is not the dunya, is not just the dunya. If he goes towards the dunya, he's past his limits. His happiness comes with the most simple things of life. But we want to push you, we want to see how far we go. By Allah, the most simplest things of life are the things that are going to make you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are going to make you humble, and are going to make you happy. Stop fighting for something that we're going to leave behind. Because the problem is, like we said, your limit, too much of this world, without a doubt, it's going to divert you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's going to divert you away from your brothers in Islam. It's going to divert you away from the ones that you love. It's going to divert you away from your family and from your friends. For what? Happiness only comes when a person understands, me as a human, I'm very unstable. I need as much religion and deen and simplicity in my life. And that's the only thing that's going to make me happy. Because the only thing that fixed and corrected the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was simplicity and ease. And this was preached obviously by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by the companions. Not saying that if you have wealth, you shouldn't show your blessing. Not saying that if Allah has blessed you, you shouldn't buy the good things of life. But know where your limits are and where your happiness is. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وآخر دعوانا